A unique approach is now being taken in the state of Utah, underway, involving State Senator Aaron Osmond, who'd like to make some changes in education, but really wants to hear from you. And I know people say, oh, yeah, they do that all the time. No, he really does. And he's come up with a unique way to do that, and we want to welcome him to the show tonight. Senator Osmond, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
Doing well. Thanks a lot, Rod. I appreciate the invitation.
Now, you were talking about that you'd like to see some changes in education here in the state of Utah. What are some of the ideas you're thinking about, and how are you going about kind of assessing what people want to do?
Well, first of all, we're trying to find a way to improve the teaching environment for our teachers by addressing issues like how do we effectively reward and recognize great teachers, and then how do we address and effectively remove bad ones that are a drain on the system. And so we're proposing some legislation in partnership with the State Board of Education that we feel will address those things. Namely, we're making some recommendations around changing the employment relationship with our teachers, moving from an expectation of continued employment and moving to more of a contract at-will relationship with our teachers across the state. Now, we recognize that that is a very sensitive and significant shift in how we work with our teachers and how historically they're used to being treated in an employment relationship. And so we're concerned that we need to understand what the impacts of that will be for our teachers, especially on morale, and if that really is going to help us accomplish the goal of reinforcing and rewarding great teachers and eliminating those that are not effective and that are a drain on our system.
Aaron, now I understand, I love what I hear, but how do you get input back from people? And you're using a new idea. It's called iCount.com. And tell us about what that is and how it works, and if someone out there has an idea for you, how they would go about submitting that.
Well, one of the challenges of being a state senator is that I receive email from individuals across the state, and often it's difficult for me to differentiate who is one of my constituents that I should be listening to, who elected me into this body, and who are just individuals that are trying to influence my vote.
Sure.
And one of the powerful things about this new site called iCount is that it creates a credentialing system where people can be verified that they are, in fact, living, for example, in my district in South Jordan, West Jordan, or Harriman. And then I know that when I receive feedback from those individuals that they're my constituents, that they are the ones that are responsible for holding me accountable, and I need to engage with them, and I know it. And that's what's so exciting about the system. It creates a polling environment and a feedback environment that's very simultaneous. I can find out how my constituents feel about something immediately.
Yeah. Now, your ideas, why do you think it's vital that we have to consider some changes?
Well, right now there is a growing public concern. And by the way, that concern is shared with many, if not most, of my colleagues in the legislature, that we are not meeting the expectations of a global economy in our public education system. We're falling behind in math and science, and despite the heroic efforts, literally the heroic efforts of our teachers to try to address those needs, we're still falling behind. And so we have to change the environment that we're in and be able to reward and recognize innovation and expert teaching, and our current system just really does not allow us to do that. These teachers are great teachers, feel that they're expected to perform at these high levels, to give extra hours to their teaching responsibilities with no incremental compensation, really no recognition for what they do, and they feel like the teachers that aren't pulling their weight are a drain on the system and are treated equally as they are when they're performing at a significantly higher overall contribution. Yeah, so we have to make a change.
Yeah, and speaking of change, in the private industry and anywhere, change is hard for people. I mean, it's uncomfortable. You're nervous about. You don't know what's going to happen. Is there any way that these changes can be made that people say, okay, I'll adapt? I mean, it's not easy, is it?
Well, I think that change is more successful when there's buy-in about the need for the change, and you involve the community that is affected by that change. That's why I feel it's so important right now before the general session to let our teachers and our other education employees know what we're trying to do, get them involved, get their feedback, listen to them, and when they feel listened and validated, they'll be more inclined to support or provide alternate suggestions on how we can make change and make it successful. You can't just force it on them, and I think that the problem that we've had, Rod, in the past is that the way that we've operated in the legislature, with all due respect to my colleagues, is that we've mandated things. We haven't engaged the communities that are affected by them as effectively as I know we can, and that's why I'm on this show today, to let people know, look, I want your feedback. I want to understand the impact. I want to know what parents think, what administrators think, what teachers think. Let's engage together as a community like it should be in a representative republic.
Mm-hmm. Now, the easy way to do it is what? Go to iCount.com. Is that the address, and they can find a way to get a message to you. Is that right, Senator?
That's correct.
All right.
It's very easy to sign up. It's very easy to identify what districts that you're in and who your elected officials are. I encourage everyone to go out and take a look at iCount.com and find out how they can start engaging with their elected officials.
All right. Senator, it's great chatting with you as always. Thank you for your time tonight.
I appreciate your time, Rod. Thanks again.
All right, more of the Rod Arquette Show coming up right here on Talk Radio 105.7 FM, 570 AM.